Assalamu alaikum students and welcome to SM Public Academy Campus 5. I hope you all are doing good and I hope you all are staying home and staying safe and taking care of yourself. So, as I told you that this week we are going to have literature all week. So today is our last English literature day. So I welcome all the grade 4 students to English literature class and I am your course instructor Miss Sabah Arif. So, before I begin the lesson today, I want to remind you people that you have to complete all the work that is given all this week, including the homework assignments and all the classworks, including today's classwork that will be shared in this uh, recording. I want you people to complete all the work and submit your copies positively tomorrow. That is Saturday, 23rd of January. Okay, so let's begin our lecture for today. We are doing wide range readers green book 4 and our lesson is the boy who loved ships on page number 102. Now we have already completed almost 70% of our lesson and we have already done a lot of uh, you know work from this chapter. We have done the word meanings, we have done the questions and answers. Okay, so I hope that this lesson is clear to you people and you people have understood almost what is happening in this lesson. So let's move on. First, let's have a quick review. Francis Drake was the most famous sailor in England. Now, this lesson is all about Francis Drake. There is a boy called Francis Drake, and that boy used to live in a ship house. His whole life was all the time associated with the ships, and finally, he became a sailor, and then he became the captain of a ship, and finally, he was the most famous sailor, and people used to depend on him. Okay, he was the first Englishman to sail around the world. So he was the first Englishman who sailed around the world. Okay, he was the first person. He has fought and won many battles, so everyone thought he would win the battle. So, because he was popular amongst the English people, that he's a very bold and courageous man, and he will definitely help them, win the battle with the Spaniards. So that's why everybody is having confidence in him. The English army waited for days, weeks, and months until in July a messenger told Francis that the Great Armada was coming. So finally, because the English knew that the Spanish fleet, that is the Great Armada, it would come sooner or later and it will attack them. So they were waiting. They waited for days, then they waited for weeks, they waited for months, and almost an year passed, okay? But the Spanish fleet did not come. Until in July, a messenger told Francis that, okay, now the Spanish fleet was coming and they should prepare for the attack. The wind and tide were against the English army, but he didn't panic his people. So Francis Drake, when he saw the tide and the wind, he knew that at that moment they cannot go forward and attack the English or the Spanish ships, because the wind and the tide were against him, and they wouldn't be these both things. If they're not supportive, then it's difficult to win a battle. So he told his men that, okay, let's complete the game, and we can also afterwards. He was playing bowling, and he said that I'll be first complete the game, and then you're going to defeat the Spanish people too. Okay, so let's start reading forward. You're going to begin reading on page number 107. Okay, so everybody open up page number 107. That night, when the tide had turned, Francis Drake led the navy out of port. The sails strained and flapped in the wind, and the air was full of rain and mist. But at last the ships were all out, and the two fleets faced each other across the dark sea. The Armada, great and mighty, and the daring little English ships. So basically, what happened, that in the morning, in the afternoon time, the tide and the wind were in another direction, and when it was night time, the wind and the tide changed the direction, and now it was in the opposite direction. And so Francis Drake was now sure that this was a favorable time, okay, to attack. So he led his navy out of the port, that is, he led his army to come out of the port and prepare for the attack. The sails strained. Now, what is the meaning of strained? Strained means to draw tight to the utmost tension, stretched to the full. And what is the meaning of flapped? Flapped means up and down when flying. So basically, the sails, the curtains, that help the ship to float, they were actually very tightly tied and they were flapping. That means they were moving, here and there. And the air was full of rain and mist. So the weather was also a rainy and a misty weather. Mist, I told you, is fog. Okay. So it was a misty, it was a rainy and a foggy weather. But at last, the ships were all out. But still, these people of Francis Drake, they did not, get coward, or they did not lose hope. And what did they do? They went out of the port. And the two fleets faced each other across the dark sea. So what happened? Both the fleets faced each other and they were ready to fight. The Armada, great and mighty. So the fleet Armada had very huge and big ships. Remember, they were like castles. They were very, very, very big and huge ships. And the daring little English ships. So on one side were the great and mighty and the big Armada ships, and the other side were the English ships, which were comparatively smaller in size. They were small, they were little, but they were courageous people with on those ships. Next day, the battle started, and for weeks, the sky was gray with smoke. So, what happened? The next day, when the battle started, it was the battle didn't start in the night time. They waited until it was morning, and as soon as it was morning, then from then on to for weeks, what happened? The sky was gray with the smoke. When there's a lot of smoke coming out, if you have seen a fire somewhere and you see the black smoke going out of there, or the gray smoke coming out of there, the sky start seems to it seems that the sky has changed its color. The sky looks like it is gray in color. Then the guns boomed out. Boom means make a loud and deep sound. So boomed out means that the guns, when definitely they are firing or they're shooting, then there's this loud and deep sound coming out from the guns. Okay, across the sea. At night, dim lanterns glowed, and English boats with muffled oars crept about, setting fireships loose among the enemy. Wet flames burst in the darkness, and all the sky was tinged with the glow of fire. The mighty ships, the great armada, were sinking, or burning, or trying to escape. So, what happened, when it was night time, the lanterns. Now, the dim lanterns, that is when you put the fire slow. Lantern is a lamp with a transparent case. Okay, lanterns are actually lamps kind of things which have a fire in them, and they were used in the olden days when there was no electricity. Okay, they glowed, that means they were shown, they were sparking. So in the dim light, the lanterns showed and the great English boats. So what happened in the when it was night time and the lights were very dim, what was seen in the sea? The English boats were seen, okay, with muffled doors. What are muffled? Muffled means to wrap up so as to protect. So when you are not using the oars. Oars are a pole with a flat blade used to row a boat through the water. So oars are what you call in Urdu the chappu, which with sail a boat. So what did the English boats used to do? They used to put up the oars, in a protective way so that they don't fall out. Okay, and that was not their sailing time actually. Crept about, moved about, setting fire ships loose among the enemy. So what they used to do, they used to set fire ships, amongst the enemies. They used to let small fire ships go in the enemy battalions. Red flames burst out in the darkness. And what happened when those fire ships used to spark or they used to burst? Red flames used to fill the darkness. That is, if it's night time, it's all dark, and all of a sudden there's a flame, there's a red flame coming out. So it used to burst in the darkness. That is, it should showed very brightly, and all the sky was tinged with the glow of fire. Tinged is to color with a slight shade. Okay, tinged means to color with a slight, very slight shade. So what happened when there was a fire a glow in the sea? Then the sky used to look also reddish colored. Okay, the mighty ships of great armada were sinking. And what was actually happening in the sea, that the English boats were actually, with their strategy of sending the boats and firing them up and burning them up, the Spanish ships were actually losing and they were sinking one by one, and the great armada was actually defeated. So what were they doing? Some of them were sinking, and some of them were burning, and the rest who were there they were trying to escape. Escape means to run away. So basically the great armada was defeated. The Spaniards were beaten, and all they could hope to do now was to get back to Spain with the ships that were left. So, what did the Spanish captains decide? That they are, because they are defeated, they are beaten by the Englishmen. So, it's better to go back to Spain, okay, to move back to Spain. So, what they decided, that there was no hope, we cannot win the battle anymore. So, it's better that we go back. So, with Drake and the English sailing after them, and a sudden mighty wind scattering them, the ships were blown along the rocky coast, and the great armada was broken and beaten at last. So, what happened finally? That because the ships were trying to move back, and the Francis Drake's army and his his navy people, they were all coming behind them. All of a sudden, there was a very mighty wind. A very strong gust of wind came, and all the boats were scattered. And what happened? The Great Armada, that was one of the biggest, fleet of the Spanish, was all defeated, and all the boats, they just hit the rocks here and there, and finally they were beaten and broken, and some of them, very few of them, managed to go back. Otherwise, all of them just got broken and beaten at last after hitting the rocky coast. Okay, rocky is a stony coast. Coast is the place where the land meets the sea. So basically, they were blown up at the rocky coast. Okay, is that clear? Long, long ago, an old broken ship rotted away at the river's edge beside the dockyard. Once it had been a warship with great white sails blowing in the wind and shining cannon fixed upon the deck. Once it had been the home of Francis Drake, the boy who loved ships. So basically, again, the boy who loved ships, Francis Drake, now he used to live in that same worship house. And what was that worship house? It was a ship from the Great Armada, from the fleet of Great Armada. It was one of those ships, and he used to live in this house. And what was the ship like? It had cannons, it has a big mast, and it has a shining deck. It used to have a shining deck, and now after it was broken and it was of no use, it was parked at a river's edge, it was rotting over there, it was getting spoiled over there, it was just losing all its beauty there, and it was the home of Francis Drake. Francis Drake was the boy who loved ships. Okay, so I hope the lesson is clear to you. It is a very interesting lesson because it's a true story. It's about a man, Francis Drake, who was actually a normal boy who used to live at the edge of the sea. And because he lived in such a place where, every time he was meeting the sailors, he was seeing the ships coming, going, getting loaded, unloaded, mended, repaired. So, he was all the time listening to stories from the sailors. And finally, there was a time that he developed so much love for ships that he became a sailor first. And because he was a very good and a very enthusiastic sailor, so his captain, when he died, he left the ship to Francis, and Francis became the captain of his own ship. Okay, and when he became the captain of his own ship, what did he do? He sailed around the world, and he was very famous among the English people. And when the Great Armada, that was the fleet of ships from Spain, when they came to attack, then everybody was confident that Francis Drake, with his planning, with his commanding, everybody will be a winner in England. And this is what happened finally. That he set the ships at such a time with such planning and such a courage that and wisdom, that finally the Great Armada was defeated, and the ships that were left, either they tried to escape, and some of them were blown away by the wind, and some of them hit the rocky coast, and finally, Francis Drake was the winner of this battle, and also he was very much praised by the Englishmen. Okay, so I hope the lesson is clear to everyone. Now let's begin our classwork today. Okay, now what you have to do today in your lesson is that you have to attempt first of all this. Given classwork in your English literature copies. This is the index. I'm showing you this index. You can pause the video and you can watch it. The serial number would be whatever serial number you have in your copy. The date would be 22 11 121. The lesson is The Boy Who Loved Ships, and today we are doing two things, that is the character sketch and choose the correct answer. Okay, so maintain your index, everyone. I want you all to do neat and tidy work. Okay, I'll give you 1 minute to write the index so that you can take your time during the video and you can write the index. Okay, the character sketch. Now, the character sketch here we have is of Francis Drake. Francis Drake was a famous sailor who belonged to a poor family. He lived in an old and broken warship which was once known as the Great Armada. Along with his family, his father was a preacher and his mother was a housewife. He was very hardworking, friendly, and cheerful, who loved to hear the stories of pirates and battles. He had been the first Englishman to sail around the world. He has fought many battles. He was very bold. So, this is the character sketch of Francis Drake. I want you people to write this in your copies, okay? So please start writing, everyone. About Francis Drake, he was a famous sailor. First of all, this is what you're going to write, and he belonged to a very poor family. He lived in an old and broken warship, okay, which was once known as the Great Armada. Is that clear? Along with his family. His father was a preacher, his mother was a housewife. This is about his parents, and he was a hardworking, friendly, and cheerful boy. Okay, and what was his nature? He was hardworking, he was friendly, and he was a happy boy. And what did he like to do? He loved to hear stories of pirates and battles. He had been the first Englishman to sail around the world. Okay, that was, a great achievement for him. And he has fought many battles. He was very bold. So kindly write everyone this. I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes to complete this. You have to attempt this in the same way that you do the classwork when you are having a virtual lecture, that I give you time and you complete it. Okay. Similarly, here I'll give you a little time, you can complete it. And even, in the recorded lecture, you have the advantage to pause the video. So you can pause the video or write the character sketch and then begin it again. Okay. So this is the advantage you people can have in a recorded lecture. Okay, let's have a look at the another work that we have to do. This is choose the right answer. Now, for the first one, Dash wished for a real house. Francis' father or Francis' mother? Who wished for a new house? Was it Francis' father or Francis' mother? It was Francis' mother. Okay, so this is the right answer. The Great Armada was a fleet of sailors or ships. The Great Armada was a fleet of ships. So ships is the right answer. Everybody looked to Francis Drake to save the ship or the country. What is the correct answer? We have read this. Everybody looked to Francis Drake to save the country. So country is the correct answer. Francis' father was a dash, was a captain or a preacher. His father was a preacher. Okay, his father was not a captain. Francis Drake was playing dash with his men. Was he playing cricket or was he playing bowls? He was playing bowls, okay? The Dash were beaten, the English were beaten, or the Spaniards were beaten? Come on, this is something you all should know after reading the lesson. The Spaniards were beating, okay? So, I want you people to complete all these 6 sentences and the character sketch and submit your copy tomorrow on 23rd, okay? With complete work. So see you again on Monday, and from Monday onwards we are going to do English language. Okay, so I want you people to keep your language books and copies ready on Monday with you in our virtual class. So, till then, children, take care of yourself and Allah Hafiz. And if there is any question, any query regarding the lesson or anything that you did not understand today, kindly ask me in the Google Classroom. I'll be more than welcome to explain to you. Okay. And today we have completed our second lesson in English, that is the Boy Who Loved Ships. Our first lesson and final term was Escape for Three. Now, our second lesson was The Boy Who Loved Ships. Okay, so we have completed two lessons in English literature today, along with all the work. Okay, so see you on Monday. Take care. Allah Hafiz.